Hey good people, today's video is all about that trusty old pentatonic scale. We're going to look at the basic patterns on bass for major and minor pentatonics in the two most common keys, and I'm going to show you how this basic pattern of 5 notes can unlock the entire fretboard. Stick with me till the end because we're going to look at some fretboard logic that I promise will help you visualize all the notes on the fretboard, and you'll be thinking about bass lines and bass solos in a completely new way. The word pentatonic comes from the Greek words penta meaning 5 and tonic meaning tone. So basically we've got a scale with 5 notes where our traditional scales have 7, 8 if you count the octave. Let's start with the minor pentatonic. It contains a root or a tonic, a flat third, a fourth, a fifth, a flat 7, and then you're back to the octave again. A major pentatonic contains these 5 notes. It's got a root, a second, a major third, a fifth, and a sixth. We're going to start with a minor pentatonic, and rather than focusing on the notes, let's focus on the pattern and focus on the numbers of the scale. We all know this open E, and you probably know that up here on the 7th fret of the A string is its octave. Those are pretty recognizable, and we rock out on that a lot. Right? So, check this out. I want to start this minor pattern on the 7th fret of the A string. E is our root, and if you're counting just 1 fret per finger, if you go up to your pinky, that's your minor third, and you've got a 4, a 5, and a 7, and then you're back on the octave where you started. It's really simple to see and memorize this pattern. You've got 3 frets, 2, and then 2 again. It's the same pattern no matter what key you're in, but let's stay in E minor and find all the E's on the fretboard. So I'm on a 5-string bass and there's 5 E's between your open strings and the 11th fret. Once you get to the 12th fret, you're basically repeating all this, just an octave higher. If you're playing a 4-string, there's 4 E's, and if you're playing a 6-string, there's 6 E's. That makes it super easy to remember, and here they are. You know this octave shape, right? It's in every disco song. So if you know that octave shape, you know this is an E, and this is an E in its octave. You know this is an E, because we were just playing it, and this is its octave, and if you're on a 5-string, that's its octave. So there's your 5 notes. So now we have a starting place to play this minor pentatonic all over the entire neck. So let's look at the pattern. This illustration shows the complete pattern all over the neck, starting down here at the low E. Then this one. But the notes of this pattern continue all over the neck. So here's some fretboard logic for you. Anytime you see a 1, you know that there's always a 5 underneath it, or above it, on the next string. So a 1 and a 5, right? 1, there's always a 5 right there. You know, it's that standard country bass line, right? Root 5. And if you apply that same octave logic that we were playing, you know there's always an octave of the 5 there. And you can play the same country bass line. Same logic applies to a 4th. There's always going to be a 4th above your 1 or below the 1. Right? Anytime you see a minor third, which is this note for an E minor, there's always a flat 7 above it, right, on the next string. There's your flat 7. So if I have my flat third here, my flat 7 is right here, and vice versa. You know, if there's a flat 7, there's always a flat third above it. Hopefully you can see how this is unlocking the fretboard, even if you don't know all the notes. So if you're in B minor, and you know this is your minor third here, you know that there's a flat 7 right here. Same thing if you're in A minor, playing along. Here's your flat third. I know that's my flat 7. Also know this is a 4, and I know this is a 5. After a while, this all starts to sink in, and memorizing the notes becomes so much easier, but the most important thing is you see the pattern, you understand how it repeats, and you understand the scale degrees of the pattern, which will really help you out with your playing. You just start associating things like, oh yeah, I'm in the key of E minor, so this minor third is a G, right? You start visualizing that sort of fretboard logic all over the fretboard. So speaking of G, let's take a look at the G major pentatonic. Different than a minor pentatonic, which would have been root, minor third, 4, 5, and flat 7. The major is the root, the 2, the major third, the 5, and a 6. This is the basic shape. It's a lot like that major scale if you've ever learned that pattern. Right, but we're just taking out a few notes, keeping it simple with a root, a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 6. Here's another fingering I like because it outlines the same notes but in a more common riff that you might play over a major chord. I mean, how many times have you heard? So basically you're looking at these 3 whole steps and another whole step underneath those 2. Pretty easy to visualize. Plus this version moves you further up the neck, and up here is your octave. So it really takes you up in the new territory. Here's one more pattern starting with your pinky. I'm going to start with this G, which if you know this is a G, you know an octave down is this G, and it looks like this. Okay, moving on, same exercise as before. Let's find all the G's on the neck, and just like the E, there's 5 on a 5 string, 4 on a 4 string, and 6 on a 6 string. And here they are. And there's one here. We're not counting that one because it's the same G as the open G we just played, just up an octave. So now you can start any of those basic shapes anywhere on the neck using one of those G's, right? That's really cool. All the notes in the G major pentatonic are the same notes as the E minor pentatonic. That's because G is the relative major of E minor, or E is the relative minor of G. So check it out. Even though the degrees are different, you can play an E minor pentatonic pattern over a G and vice versa. So let's think about it this way. If I'm playing a G major chord, and I play my E minor pentatonic starting here, right? Ending on my third there, which is a G, is the minor third of E. Sounds totally different over a G than if I played an E minor. And then we play it back to the G major. Back to an E minor. The theory behind this is based on the circle of fifths. We're not going to worry about the theory right now, but the big takeaway is this. If you're in a major key, the relative minor is always a sixth or a step and a half below the root. If you're in a minor key, the relative major is always the minor third or a step and a half up from the root. So super easy. To find the relative minor, go down a step and a half. To find the relative major, if you're in a minor key, go up a step and a half. So if I'm in A minor, the relative major is C. And if I'm in D major, the relative minor is B. It's the same for all your pentatonic patterns. I chose E minor and G major because they're the two most popular keys in guitar-based music, and they just happen to be the relative major and minor to each other. I hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully it sparks some creative ideas about how you visualize the fretboard. As always, I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.